what have you seen has kind of been the biggest like sticking point, I guess, or the hurdle that everyone's had to kind of get over to go forward with a house hack?
The reason why real estate to begin with is sort of a safe place to park money is because it has a barrier to entry, right? And a lot of other investments do not have barrier to entry. You don't have to have a certain amount of capital. You don't have to have a certain credit score. You don't have to go through the whole underwriting process to buy a stock, right? And you don't have to do any of that on the backside to sell a stock, right? So the one thing that intrigues people to the stock market is the liquidity of it. You can hold as much Apple stock as you want, but the second that you want to liquidate that to go somewhere else or whatever, spend the money, you can hit sell on that account as long as it's not an investment or a retirement account, right? You can sell it and take that money out. The reason that real estate, is a very safe place to park money historically is that it takes so long to sell a property, right? And there is such a barrier to entry. So I think the first thing is that the kind of sticking point, the thing that is a barrier to people is their understanding of financing and what they need to bring. And a lot of people think of it as, that they need 20% down. A lot of lenders will say that about multi-units, and I know lenders said that to you, or that they won't qualify, or that there isn't a plan for them to get there. Maybe in their family, no one has bought a property before, so they're unfamiliar with the process, and it's intimidating, which it is. It can be, because it's sort of, no one talks about it. You don't talk about it over, dinner at the dinner table. And so I think that process is very intimidating, the lending process, getting a mortgage. And I think that is sort of the initial point where people are intimidated. And then secondly, beyond that, I mean, for the most part, this is the largest purchase people make is a property, right? So it's super intimidating. And so in that course, the thing that we try to hammer down is that rock stars hang with rock stars. And so generally speaking, like Drew said, Drew's real estate agent referred him a lender. And from my own experience, people that are really good in this industry, they despise working with people that are mediocre, or people that don't execute or don't have great communication skills. And so if you can find one key member, they will almost always have a great executor and somebody that'll have your best interest in mind in the other, whether you need a CPA, a real estate agent, a lender, an attorney, you name it, a contractor, right? They are going to surround themselves with people that are rock stars. And so finding the people and finding the lending is generally the two barriers. And so if you can kind of knock those over, the process is much easier. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, well, I got two answers to that question. The first one is one big barrier is the down payment. I don't know how it was for you, Manny, but a lot of people might look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I got to put down 10,000 plus closing costs. I need $15,000 just to even get started. I need this to even get started. And that compared to like 20% down is just monumental. It's a huge difference, but saving 15,000 or saving 10,000, I think is realistic for anybody. Two biggest factors is like, if you don't have the money and if you don't have the savings rate to get there right now, you can pick up extra work. Maybe you pick up a second part-time job. Maybe you flip stuff from garage sales on eBay. Maybe you donate, there's, donate plasma. There's a bunch of different ways to like get that extra cash. You're going to trade a lot of time in the beginning just to get that first down payment, but you don't have to do that extra stuff once you get into that house hack because the savings rate is so high once you start house hacking. You can continue to do it and accelerate. The point is there's a lot of ways to get that down payment. If you're not making enough money right now, if you don't have the cash on hand, you're just going to have to trade a lot of time if you're not prepared for it. The second thing is people don't want to live with roommates. That's a big excuse we hear all the time. And I think you had a really good point, Manny, earlier today. You're at a point in your life where like house hacking is going to work right now. When you're older, it might not make sense. It might not be as easy to do. Maybe you have a family, you might not want to live with people. There are options for families that want a house hack. I always recommend a flat level duplex that's, split down the middle just to increase privacy. Early in your life, if you're young, how old are you, Manny?
28.
Okay. I mean, if you're young in your 20s, like that's a great time to move into a house like you are, rent by the room. You're cash flowing. I mean, that's huge. If you had a wife and 2 kids and stuff like that, you wouldn't be able to get that deal. You'd still be able to house hack, but you're not going to find as good of a deal like that. The point is, like, living with the roommates, it might be a 1 year sacrifice. It might be a 2 year sacrifice, but sharing that space and having to deal with whatever that entails is by far worth it, because it's going to really kickstart your real estate investing career. And keep in mind that you're the one picking the people that move in. You're picking the tenants. So make sure you're picking quality tenants, and you're not going to have any issues.
And to your point, Drew, I really love the analogy of the rocket ship. They say that 90 to 95% of the fuel on a rocket ship is exhausted during takeoff. And what that looks like, I'm no rocket engineer, but to a certain point, the amount of fuel it takes to get the rocket off and launched is just exponential. And so it probably took Manny and myself and Drew a really long time to scrape together cash when we were younger. I know, like, for myself, I never held a high paying job. So I mean, I had to be scrappy. I had to save every penny I could, to get that, first down payment. And then the second, down payment, it's challenging. But in Manny's case, in theory, given the fact that he's saving or he's making about $500 a month right now, on top of the $500 he used to be paying in rent, that's roughly $1,000. That means that roughly Manny will make $12,000 this year. He'll be able to actually put in the bank account about $12,000 more than he could have last year, plus whatever else he decides to save or whatever else additional money he makes. And you can see how, it took him a while probably to get this down payment to buy the first house, but now it's probably, in theory, going to be a lot quicker and a lot, faster and easier to get the second down payment, and then from there, it just starts to snowball. And, and it's kind of the same theory as the rocket ship. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of willpower. It takes a lot of sacrifice to kind of get that first down payment. And then, from mile 1 to 2 of the rocket, it's probably a lot less fuel, right? A lot less effort to kind of do, because we've already gotten the initial mile launched. Right. And then from 2 to 3, it's kind of expedited. And then at some point, when you're making this money and you're probably starting to increase your income at your job or whatever it is, it's probably comes quicker and faster. And then you figure out creative financing and you start to raise money, and people have sort of this limited belief, and it's always focused on deal one, which is good for them. Right. But if you can see the big picture that, man, it's going to take a lot of energy, but as soon as I get to here and I build a reputation, it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot faster, and it'll really happen for them. And so we just like to hammer that down for people sometimes.